What up, everybody? This is your boy Dedrian from House of Rasslin, and this is my review for the November 9th episode of AEW Dynamite. Like, share, comment, subscribe, hit the notification so that way you are notified when the House of Wrestling drops its latest content. Follow me, Dedrian180, at TikTok, Twitter, and Instagram. So, tonight's AEW Dynamite. This was a pretty fun show. There's a few things that kind of wish they would have tightened up a little bit and transition. One thing I did notice was a few glitches with I don't know if it was YouTube TV or TNT or what have you. It was just a few little minor glitches, but overall, man, this was a pretty fun show. The crowd was electric and into it in Boston, so there was a lot of cool things. It was reported by Lucha Libre Online that John Cena Sr. was at ringside for AEW Dynamite, and I know there was some speculation as far as would or is Sasha Banks appearing on tonight's AEW Dynamite, and no, that's not the case. Of course, if you guys don't know, she is in Boston, and she kind of threw some hints or what have you, just making it appear, making people think. And it's not her. It was just a picture of Red Sox and a car, black SUV. Normally take people around and stuff like that. Just that. So again, fans right away, oh my God, she's going to appear on AEW Dynamite. No, that was not the case. But man, this show, like I said, this was a fun show. You could tell that they're heading into full gear. This is the road to full gear. So a lot of things were picking up steam as far as the Eliminator tournament and the MJF promo, which was amazing. Saraya, Britt Baker had a vignette of the Elite video package. So yeah, there's a lot of little things going on. You can tell in some instances that AEW is holding back some things. Could be that they're holding back for not Full Gear pay-per-view, but the Ring of Honor pay-per-view for that whole ROH thing to launch in 2023. So a lot of interesting things with AEW. But before I get into this show, like always, I'm going to give you guys the results first, so that way you guys know what transpired. So we started off with FTR in the Acclaim. They defeated the Gun Club and Swerve in Our Glory. Then we had Ethan Page defeat Eddie Kingston. We had Wardlow defeat Ari Daivari. We had Jay Lethal defeat Trent Beretta. We had Jamie Hayter defeat Sky Blue. And in the main event, we had Bryan Danielson defeat Sammy Guevara in a 2 out of 3 falls match in the main event. So that is the results for AEW Dynamite. Pretty stacked show. Kind of missing a few people. I know a big question that a lot of people have as far as AEW, and myself included, and I miss him. Miro. Like, hey, where's Miro? Where's Miro? And I think we're probably going to see him more than likely at the beginning of the year, hopefully. We shall see. But let's get into this whole card of AEW Dynamite. So it started off with the Gun Club and Swerve in Our Glory versus FTR in the Acclaim. I like this match starting off because, one, you have two of these loudest crowd reactions in AEW right now, FTR and the Acclaimed. They're on the same team, so you're going to have all the crowd cheer for these guys, everything they do. Scissor Me Danny chants, FTR chants. Surprisingly, there wasn't a lot of Whose House, Swerve's House, so little things to pay attention to. Also in this match, you did have Keith Lee that was very reluctant to do anything with the Gun Club, but Swerve was very willing to do stuff with the Gun Club. Of course, the Gun Club are a part of the Affirm with Stokely Hathaway, so there's a lot of stuff there. There's a story being told in the ring, but also that story between Keith Lee and Swerve Strickland. Kind of saw it in this match. It's like, okay. So you had, in the beginning, when the Acclaim were coming down to the ring, you had Max Caster give a reference to Herschel Walker, Kyrie Irving, Tom Brady. I'm just going to leave it at that. Go listen to the promo. It was pretty funny, the rap that he did. Just go listen to it. Then you had Billy Gunn, who just like darted after Swerve Strickland and tackled him and started beating him up. He had to be separated from Swerve Strickland. So they're at ringside. Of course, you had the Scissor Beat Daddy chants. Then later on in the match, you had Swerve do his the move that he does with Keith Lee, where he grabs his hand, walks up the ropes, and does a moonsault onto people that are at ringside. So you had that. That was pretty cool. Then you had Keith Lee reluctant to join Swerve Arguri and the club, which it's one thing to say it, but the way he did it, he just went into the ring slow. He just shook his head. His whole body language just told the whole story of, I don't want to be with these guys. I don't know what you're on. I don't know what you're doing. And I'm talking about the character. I'm not saying that, he wants to leave. It's like, no. The story between him and Swerve Strickland just went to another level, especially during this match. Of course, he did his part as far as winning the match, which is another story that it's pretty cool to tell that, hey, Keith Lee, in spite of him teaming with guys that he doesn't like, he wants to win, which is a very reasonable and logical story to tell in AEW. So, from that point, you had Dax execute a suplex cutter from the top rope onto everybody at ringside. Then you had Austin Gunn mock Dax Hardwood. Then Dax Hardwood wound up putting him in the sharpshooter. That led to the mic drop from the Acclaim, which led to, I believe it was Austin Gunn getting the big rig. The Acclaim got the pin. 1, 2, 3. They win. There wasn't, actually thinking about it, I don't think there was that much post-match shenanigans. Like, maybe the Wardlow was one, but there wasn't that many. It was very minimal. It was just a cut dry finish and on to the next promo. So, I don't know. Pretty decent. I know a breath of fresh air for certain fans in AEW. For me, I don't care if they have post-match this or post-match that. Just freaking entertain me, man. With everything going on in this world, man, just freaking give me something to take my mind off for the next 2 hours. And that's all I care about. So then we get a video package from the Pardon My Take podcast with MJF. And, man, this was a really good video that they shot him on this podcast. And, man, AEW needs to do more of this. And not so much wrestlers being on podcasts, but, man, if you can... Podcast is basically the new radio show in our society. And, man, if you can get wrestlers to go on these popular podcasts and get footage and have it, be included into the storyline, which you can air on TV, which you're cross-promoting with that audience of that podcast and whatever network they are broadcasting on. And that's a win-win, man. And this video, man, this was fantastic. So he mentions Hogan, Rock, Austin, Cena, Flair, San Martino. Yeah, basically WWE guys. He mentions Dusty. He says he's the future of pro wrestling that can wave the flag. He mentions how the spotlight was taken from him, from Moxley, from Jericho, who took his spotlight away for a whole year. How a neck, his first time in the spotlight, it was taken away from a neck tattoo, alluding to Cody Rhodes. So he mentions all these things that are actually true. Interesting. Great story. So he mentions this, and he basically says, hey, Moxley, I am going to be the next AEW World Champion. So he really sold this pay-per-view. He sold himself. He sold AEW. Everything you need to sell in a promo, he checked it off in this video package on Pardon My Take podcast, man. This was so good. And again, AEW needs to let their wrestlers, not that they don't, but they should get their wrestlers on all these major podcasts to further storylines because, man, this was some good stuff. The video was good. It wasn't anything that looked like it was pre-produced or anything like this. Or let me phrase that. It didn't look like something that was taken from a broadcast on a podcast. Like this felt like, hey, yeah, I'm doing your show, but I got a crew with me that's recording this. That was so good. It felt very edgy, aggressive. Just this is my thing. Hey, I'm gonna send this message. I got my videographer. I'm going to send this to AEW. Like, that was really good. I like that. This was one of the highlights for this show. Then we get another video package, which was just as good from Stokely Hathaway. And he's basically talking about how MJF was his best friend. And he's, I'm not going to use it because I don't want to get demonetized, but he's genital riding. There you go. And he says, I don't need a best friend, and I'll see you in hell, MJF. So they're really playing up the whole MJF just used the firm to get ahead, and the firm is now angry and want to get back at MJF, which, again, in the back of many people's minds, including mine, is that this is just one big swerve that is going to come to fruition at Full Gear, where MJF is going to become world champ because of the firm. So I'm looking really interested in that MJF Moxley match, man. That's the thing I want to see and how that plays out. Again, Full Gear is in New Jersey, MJF's hometown or home state. So, man, this is going to be fun. It's going to be fun and interesting how this plays out. So from there, we get the match between Ethan Page and Eddie Kingston. Eddie Kingston has Ortiz at ringside. You have a bunch of Eddie chants. Then at another point in the match, you had Stokely interfere while Kingston had the stretch plum on Ethan Page, which, man, he had that thing in so good. And what I liked about this part of the match was Eddie Kingston had the stretch plum, and you hear the announcer, you hear Taz, Excalibur, and Tony Schiavone like, "Hey, Eddie, don't let go of don't let go of the hold, because the ref is eventually going to kick Stokely Hathaway out, eject him from ringside. Just keep it on. You have him." And Eddie Kingston doesn't, and he goes after Stokely, which leads to a kick from Ethan Page, which causes Eddie Kingston to hulk up. Then there is a roundhouse kick, which knocks Eddie Kingston out. Goes for the pin, kicks out. Then Ethan Page puts Eddie Kingston up on rings at the top turnbuckle. Starts biting his forehead. That eventually leads to Ethan Page pushing Eddie Kingston down on the turnbuckle, and he sets up for the freaking Avalanche Eagle's Edge from the top rope. That was slick. The way Eddie Kingston just landed was just so perfect, man, because that move, the way it started off, it was like, ooh, I want to see how this executes, but I don't want to see it, because it's like, this can go, like, all it takes is an inch or left, an inch right, or an inch, down. Like, this could be nasty, but doesn't happen. Ethan Page gets the pin. 1, 2, 3. He wins. He advances in the world title eliminator tournament, which is going to be very interesting. Then we get a backstage segment with Dark Order, Roosh and Jose's assistant, and they're basically talking about if Roosh wins the tournament, he's going to give number 10 a title shot, and everyone else in Dark Order won't get a title shot. It Watching these segments, I'm really interested because it does seem like that Roosh has taken over the spot that Andrade had, and I know right away people are like, well, Andrade's going to sit out for a year. Again, we don't know a lot of things that's happening in AEW, especially considering that, next month is December, which is the last month of 2022, and we don't know what's going to transpire once 2023 kicks off. Me personally, as a side note, 2023 reminds me somewhat of how 2021 went, where it does feel like there's going to be this momentum that they're going to be building going into next year. So we'll see. But yeah, man, it does feel like Andrade is in the back seat and Roosh is taking over, which, me personally, man, I want to see Roosh and Andrade back. Of course, Roosh is facing Bandito this Friday on Rampage, which that match should be a banger. Yes, a banger. I know that's a real nasty, ugly, freaking face that I just made. Oh well. Then we go into the ring and we got Ari Daivari, and he gives this proposition that, hey, I'll give my servant, anybody who needs a servant, I'll give you him for a shot at the, or actually not anybody, he gives it to Wardlow that, hey, I'll let you have my servant, and here's some money for a shot at the TNT title. Wardlow comes out with Samoa Joe, and here's something that's very interesting. You saw Wardlow come to the ring through the back, and he's going up the stairs. You see Samoa Joe just sitting there by the steps, and he has this very, and how do I want to say, frustrated look. Like he knows, he's aware where something's gonna go, and it's like, I'm gonna have to do something before something happens to me. It's like, that's the look that he had. So they go to the ring. Wardlow gives a headbutt, or actually he takes the money, throws the servant out the ring, headbutts Daivari, hits a lariat, does the Symphony of Wardlow, does 4 power bombs, puts his foot on Daivari, 1, 2, 3. He pins him, grabs the mic, he calls out Hobbs, and Hobbs come out, and Wardlow says, hey, I'm going to take every title in this company. And behind him is Samoa Joe. And before he said that, Samoa Joe was like, all right. And then once he says, I'm going to take every title from this company, Samoa Joe's like, all right. Turns around, spins, and hits him with the ROH TV title. He puts Wardlow in a submission hold. He chokes out Wardlow, grabs the belt, and you just have the crowd cheering, Samoa Joe, Samoa Joe, 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 Joe. So when this happened, you see Hobbs like, well, I'll take it from him too. So I wouldn't say it's a heel turn. It's more of a breakup and separation, that you're going to have these 3 guys fighting amongst each other, which should be a very cool match if it happens. Because, I mean, man, you got 2 big dudes in Hobbs and Wardlow, and you got Samoa Joe, who's not, he can handle its own. So that's going to be really interesting where this plays off. And now you got Wardlow and Samoa Joe, which is, it's going to be a fun match when that happens. Joe versus Wardlow, or Joe versus Powerhouse Hobbs. Any one of those types of matchups are going to be fun, really fun. So looking forward to that. Then we get a backstage segment with Jade Cargill, and she's being interviewed, and she's saying, "Hey, I'm going to whoop Nyla Rose's ass. If she's on Rampage, I'm getting her. I want my damn belt back." They announced that Jade Cargill and Nyla Rose will meet at Full Gear. After tonight, like, they kind of announced a few other matches, but man, that card looks pretty good. It looks fun. Of course, the main match that people want to see is MJF versus Moxley, because they're like, MJF is going to get that title. MJF is going to get that title. Like, let's go. Let's go. Then we get the face-to-face with Britt Baker and Saraya. Gotta tell you, this was probably the best women's segment this whole year. Hands down, this was the best women's segment. And shout out to Saraya, aka Paige. You can tell that she's, from the first promo that she gave where people were heckling her like, oh, this was just, a lot of people, that's what they did. This promo, man, she held her own, and this didn't feel like a promo. This felt like her expressing where she's coming from and where she wants to go. This didn't feel like a promo. Neither did it feel that way with Britt Baker and what she said. So they come face to face. Saraya talks first, and she mentions that, I had a bunch of x-rays, and, it's unfortunate. And she pauses, and she looks at Britt Baker, and she's like, yeah, it's unfortunate for you because I'm 100% cleared. So she gets this big ovation. Yes, Saraya, a.k.a. Paige, she is cleared to wrestle. Then Britt Baker talks, and she's like, you know what the most fickle thing is? AEW fans. And it's like, ooh. You had the crowd, ooh, which was pretty interesting and good line. She mentions that, I built AEW. Superstars like you wanted to come here. You get DMD chants. Then she mentions, I am everything you wish you could have been, to Saraya. It's like, ooh, this was so good. Then she mentions, man, this is another good line. You left your house and walked into mine. Because, of course, Saraya has been telling Britt Baker, this is my house. And, man, that was a great comeback by Britt Baker. So then, after she says that, she's like, yeah, we don't take walk-ins. It's like, damn. Whew. And take an appointment. Ooh, man, this was some good stuff. So then you have Saraya respond like, yeah, you've only faced QT trainees. You don't know what it takes. I've wrestled around the UK. I got hit by a car and wrestled later. I wrestled in the Toko Dome. I wrestled in Madison Square Garden. You're an ungrateful bitch. This will be my comeback story and your biggest match. And that's how it finished. And you could tell during this promo exchange, when Saraya was explaining or telling what she's gone through, you could see Britt Baker trying to hold back emotion. And that's the one thing about this promo that stood out, was the emotion. That, like I said, this was not a promo. This felt like they were having an argument, a literal argument. And they were passionately and emotionally expressing where they were coming from and why they don't like the other person. This was so good. I hope that this is the beginning of the women's division having that type of creativity spread out amongst the other women wrestlers on AEW's women's rosters, and of course whatever women join AEW now and into 2023, because man, this is some good stuff. Just have a little bit more matches and everything, and just have it more inclusive into the AEW storylines, and have it fluid where it's not just women's storylines and men's storylines, where the men's and women's storylines kind of coincide with each other. But man, Britt Baker, Saraya, this was the best women's segment in all of AEW this year in 2022. Man, this was such a good promo. Go back, watch this promo. Man, Britt Baker's known for giving great promos. Saraya, of course, people have been saying when she first came, oh, she's used to the WWE handing her a script and blah, blah, blah. After tonight, she dispelled that whole argument and everything. Like, she really held her own. And man, this is going to be fun. This is going to be fun. And of course, we got the match at Full Gear, Saraya versus Britt Baker. This should be really good. A lot of eyeballs are going to be on this match. Me personally, I hope Saraya makes it through the match. There's no issues health-wise. I just hope both women just, man, tear down the house. Man, make history. And this is just another chapter into Saraya's comeback story, and looking forward to it at Full Gear. So from there, we get backstage segment with Cole Carter in the factory. They're with Sanjay Dutt, Jay Lethal, and Satnam Singh. He's accepting his payoff. You get the best friends and OC come in, and the fact her QT Marshall looks at Orange Cassidy's like, yeah, why don't you defend that All Elite title against Lee Johnson? And OC, Orange Cassidy's, normally just like, Dawson's like, all right, cool. Before he could say, yeah, why don't you defend? Yeah, all right, cool. And just walks away. And then what happened here is like, it was really weird because it was like a quick cut to, like, there wasn't no transition. It just cut to Trent Beretta and Jay Lethal. And all this happened before the show. And you just have Jay Lethal and Trent Beretta talking to each other. And Trent Beretta's like, yeah, I'm going to beat you tonight. And of course, it goes into the next match, which is Trent Beretta and Jay Lethal. Lethal attacks Trent Beretta's knee. And man, shout out to Jay Lethal. This guy has had some solid matches, man. The last few matches he's had has been very solid. Of course, many people do not care too much for Jay Lethal. That's a whole nother story and topics and all that other stuff. But his matches have been really good. I will give him that. Matches have been really good. And this match with Trent Beretta was really good. He did some really cool stuff in this match. So after that, Beretta gets beat down by Jay Lethal. Danhausen and Chuck Taylor come to the ring at ringside. Then you have Lethal putting on the figure four on Trent. Then you have the Avalanche half and half by Trent Beretta. Then you have Sanjay Dutt getting up on the apron. Then you have Danhausen getting up, and he's about to curse Sanjay Dutt. Then you got Satnam Singh get on a ring apron, and Danhausen hits Sanjay Dutt in the midsection. Then you have Satnam Singh. Danhausen tries to curse him, and then Satnam Singh just headbutts him. Danhausen falls, and then you have Trent Beretta drop kick Satnam Singh, which was more like a shrug, and Satnam Singh just jumps off the ring apron, which allows Jay Lethal to execute the lethal injection pin, which that whole sequence after Satnam Singh bounced off the rope, that was so good, man. You got to watch that. That was Jay Lethal man, that was crisp. Loved it. He pins Trent Beretta. Then you get Sanjay and Jay Lethal and Satnam Singh. They're on the stage. They introduce Jeff Jarrett. He gives an explanation why he's with the Satnam Singh, Jay Lethal, and Sanjay Dutt. He gives more of an explanation. Of course, last week he gave a brief explanation. He went into more detail as far as why he's in AEW. He calls out Sting. He calls out Darby Allin. The stagehand is telling him to wrap it up. He's like, "What do you don't tell me to wrap it up. You don't tell me to wrap up this interview." And he did a really good job of getting the crowd to hate him. He's like, "You know what? Why don't you shut up? Why don't you shut up?" I know some people don't care too much for Jeff Jarrett on screen. It wasn't too much. I just hope this isn't something that continues where he's continuously on AEW television. I just hope it's in small spurts and sporadically, but let's see where this goes. Of course, this leads to a tag team match at Full Gear, Darby and Sting versus Jeff Jarrett and Jay Lethal. We're going to get Sting and Jeff Jarrett on a pay-per-view in AEW in 2022. And I don't think anybody had that on their bingo card at the beginning of the year that we would have Sting and Jeff Jarrett on an AEW pay-per-view. Did not see that coming. Then we get a backstage segment with Jack Perry with Renee, and he's basically telling Christian and Luchasaurus, "I'm not done with you." Then we get a Jon Moxley promo in the ring with William Regal. The interesting thing about Jon Moxley's promo, and especially William Regal's body language, many people have been saying it. Man, what if William Regal turns on Jon Moxley? And the way William Regal stands while Moxley is giving his promo, it's almost as if he's like this, and he's looking at him, and it's almost like he's looking at him like a snake. Like, you know how most snakes, a snake looks when they're looking at something, they just look and look. Like he had that. He never got too close to Moxley. He walked with him through the crowd and everything. So again, this is theoretical and just a theory and stuff like that. Again, is William Regal? This is the biggest question. Is William Regal going to turn on Jon Moxley? That's the question. So Moxley says, "I'm the top guy." He tried to pick a fight with William Regal, lost. Who is MJF? His mom buys his stuff from JCPenney. I'm a multi-millionaire and a champion. Everything you've done, was pretty much shady up until this point. Gives a good, promo. Then we get a video. The background and the graphics are Full Gear, but the clips are from the Elite. And you have this, it's a combination of these images being deleted, like fade out, almost like Thanos, and then halfway, you could say halfway through the videos are going in reverse, where when it's going forward, they're being deleted, but then when they go in reverse, they're being restored. Like, it's really interesting how this video plays out. So apparently we're getting the Elite at Full Gear. What role will they play in Full Gear? Will they be a factor in the main event? Will they be a factor in any match? Like, that's the big question. And that's a good hook, line, and sinker for the Full Gear pay-per-view. Like, the Elite are going to be there, but we don't know what they're going to do. And that's so good for a wrestling fan, because you're like, man, some people, I get why some people don't like them. Hey, I could see that's your thing. Me, I like the Elite. I really like the Elite. But what are they going to do? There's so many questions going into this Full Gear that it's not so much questions like, "Oh man, I don't know what they're doing. I don't understand." It's more like, I really don't know what they're doing, and I'm intrigued on what they are going to do, because you don't know what's going to happen with MJF. You don't know what's going to happen with the Elite. You don't know what's going to happen with the Eliminator Tournament, the tag team match. Like, you don't know what's going to transpire, which is going to head into Winter is Coming. So, going to be really interesting how this plays out. Then You get Jamie Hayter versus Sky Blue. Man, this was a very fun, physical match. Sky Blue, uh, and man, she is putting on a show week by week, and it just seems like every week she's on the show, man, it's just getting more intriguing. It's getting more interesting. Her matches are just getting more like, damn, she's just adding a little bit more feistiness, more aggression, and it's just like, okay, ooh, okay, this is all right. She's holding her own against Jamie Hayter. All right, this is cool. Uh, you had Britt Baker and Rebel at ringside. You had Britt Baker distract Sky Blue. You had Jamie Hayter execute the backbreaker and then into a suplex. Sky Blue did a sweet ass cold red on Jamie Hayter. Like, that was a badass move that the crowd just got up like, yo, whoa, okay, this is dope. But that wasn't enough because she wound up doing a foreign exchange between Jamie Hayter, which she missed, and Jamie Hayter wound up getting her the big boot, which led to the cold lariat pin 1, 2, 3. Jamie Hayter wins. You have Tony Storm, who's at ringside, runs off Britt Baker, and they have this stare down the course. You have Jamie Hayter versus Tony Storm at Full Gear. Is Britt Baker going to cost Jamie Hayter the world title? That's the big question that's going to happen at Full Gear. Then we get a backstage promo with Alex Marvez, and basically Archer has him hostage. It's like, you need to see this, and you have Archer attack Ricky Starks and slams his head against the garage door wall thing and walks away. Then we get Sammy Guevara versus Bryan Danielson. Sammy Guevara has a lot of heat that's accompanied from whatever happened between him and Andrade El Idolo. And granted, he's going to get that heat till it's going to be a long time before that heat, dies down. A lot of people like Andrade, and it's just so much heat. But tonight, Sammy Guevara and Bryan Danielson did their thing. Great chemistry. This was a great main event. It was 2 out of 3 falls. Sammy, right off the bat, he throws a chair at Bryan Danielson, gets himself disqualified, but it winds up busting Bryan Danielson open, which the announcers played it off like, hey, maybe this is a strategy that Sammy's doing, get him hurt. He'll take the loss, but the loss is actually benefiting him because Bryan Danielson is hurt and weakened, so that makes it easier for him to get a second pinfall, which, of course, doesn't happen. You have FU Sammy chants. I am not going to repeat what they were really saying, but you kind of get the idea of what I said. FU Sammy. Those were the chants, not mine. Then you had the announcement, of course, Sting and Darby, Lethal and Jarrett at Full Gear. Then you had Bryan Danielson doing a knee counter on Sammy from the top rope. Ty Mello was eventually ejected during the match. Then you had a suplex on the top turnbuckle. That was nasty that Bryan Danielson did. Like, I haven't seen that in a while, but man, that was like literally a suplex right on the top turnbuckle. Not a suplex from the top turnbuckle onto the mat. Like, literally a suplex onto the top turnbuckle. Hopefully you guys understand that. Then you had a shooting star press onto the floor, which Sammy Guevara wound up connecting on Bryan Danielson. Then after that, later on in the match, you had the lapel lock on Bryan Danielson had on Sammy Guevara. Then you had a reverse Hurricane Rana that Bryan Danielson executed on Sammy Guevara. You had the Psycho Knee into that Bryan Danielson attempted to execute, which was turned into the Walls of Jericho by Sammy Guevara, which he wound up doing the Lion Tamer, which looked pretty cool. Mind you, through this whole match, the crowd was into it, especially at this juncture in the match where, man, they were just so into it. The near falls, the close submission tap outs and everything, the camera shots getting the pain of the submission holds. All this was so good and it was done so effectively. And here's the big thing about this match. Outside of Ty Mello getting ejected, there was no interference. Nothing. No Jericho Appreciation Society, no Blackpool Combat Club, just straight up Danielson and Guevara. This was so good. This was a fun match. After the Lion Tamer, Bryan Danielson ends up executing the running psycho knee. Then Sammy Guevara winds up doing an amazing Spanish fly DDT on Bryan Danielson, which turns into the barrage of elbows, and Danielson gets a submission hold, taps out, or Sammy Guevara taps out. Bryan Danielson wins. This was an amazing main event. A good match. I don't know how much of this match builds for the pay-per-view because again, nothing happened after this match. You just saw Bryan Danielson with his hand raised, and they get the rundown, and then that was the end of Dynamite. So again, I don't know how much this adds to the main event, or not the main event, the ROH title at Full Gear, because you get Bryan Danielson, Claudio, Jericho, and Sammy. I know it adds a little bit to the Danielson Guevara dynamic, but as far as the whole match itself, I don't see how it adds much because Jericho wasn't here. Of course, I think he was on the Masked Singer tonight or something like that. But I mean, it was a great match. So come Full Gear, Danielson, Claudio, Jericho, Guevara, those four guys probably surprise us, and who knows what will happen with the ROH title. So we'll see. But yeah, overall, this show, Dynamite, man, this was for me, it was a fun show. I liked it. Few things they could have just tightened up and everything. But like I said, outside of, I believe the Wardlow match was the only thing that was like post-match shenanigans. Everything else was just cut dry. All right, get this video package, boom, 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 cut here. I know a lot of people like that. For me, I don't mind. I don't mind all the post-match shenanigans. I don't mind if there's not shenanigans. Man, just give me a good wrestling match, with good heels and good faces. Just give me the crowd that's into it. Just keep the crowd into it and just make it make sense and keep it tight and keep it fluid. I'll enjoy it. And I know many of you will enjoy this show. Some of you may not enjoy it. Hey, yeah, whatever you may like something I may not like. I may like something you may not like. But hey, it's wrestling. But man, this was a fun show. But man, that Saraya Britt Baker promo, man, that was, man. I'm really interested and intrigued by how this match is going to play out with Saraya and Britt Baker. And man, I hope this feud is the spark to this women's division that it needs. For most of 2022, the AEW women's division has just been at a standstill, and a lot of the momentum and just the anticipation of like, man, there's going to be bigger things headed from 2021 kind of just at a standstill. Of course, a lot of it has to do with injuries. Then, of course, a lot of it has to do with just how they were being presented on television. It doesn't help that you have Chris Statlander, Layla Hirsch, Red Velvet, Mercedes Martinez, just to name a few that are injured. So don't know when they're come back. Hopefully they come back soon. But man, and we don't know who else is going to be added to this women's division. I know many people are like, well, we're hearing stuff that, this person's going to, this women's wrestler's interested in, WWE's interested in this women's wrestler, and so on and so on. Again, it's reports, rumors, things can change. So we'll see what happens in the next 2 months in 2022, and especially once 2023 gets here, who will be, added to this women's division. But man, Britt Baker, Saraya, please go watch that match or that promo. That was That was some good stuff. And yeah, Saraya is clear to wrestle at Full Gear against Britt Baker. So that is my review for the November 9th episode of AEW Dynamite. Like, share, comment, hit the notifications that you are notified when the House of Wrestling drops its latest content. Also, like this video so that way the more you like it, the more other people can see this video and share my fandom of professional wrestling. And follow me on TikTok, Twitter, and Instagram at Dedrian180. With that, man, let's exhale. Let's enjoy professional wrestling. There's a lot of interesting things going on in the world of professional wrestling. You got Full Gear, you got Survivor Series. Of course, we got MLW back for a new season this Thursday. Got a whole bunch of stuff. We don't know where or what's going to happen with Nick Aldis and NWA. So there's a whole bunch of stuff. So let's enjoy wrestling. Let's have fun. All right. It is what it is. I'm out.